After the suicide bomber struck Doha, we had one more recruiting trip scheduled. We considered canceling the trip to Oman, but in the end we forged ahead. We couldn't let the terrorists win. Well, I could have. But off I went, terrified of losing my job. That was another problem. I was not doing so well at my job. I kind of hated my job, and my job hated me back, as I like to say. These trips did have their very cool moments. No matter where we went in the region, there was always a local in our group. That meant I got to experience local culture. In Syria, we'd gone to an underground, literally, restaurant. In Cairo, it had been an uber-trendy shisha parlor, which, by the way, shisha makes me throw up, but that's also in the book. And in Jordan, we traipsed around a massive Christian area I'd never even heard of before called Mount Nebo. I wasn't sure what might be in store in Oman, but I was glad to be getting out of Qatar. It occurred to me, and not for the first time, there was something wrong with living in a country where my main recreational activity was planning to leave. Even if I'd grown more ambivalent about actually moving. Between the supplements, acupuncture, and the yoga, I was finally sleeping through the night again, so I'd been having lots of health problems in Qatar. With the grand opening over and done, my general mental state had dramatically improved, but Jeff, now that's my husband, man I loved terribly, and we moved to Qatar together. I came home alone. Jeff and I were tabling discussion of whether to bail on my employment contract till June, which would be my one-year anniversary. On the short flight between Qatar and Oman, I was delighted when Joe, the head of admissions for Texas A&M, changed seats to sit beside me. He was a superb traveling companion. Perpetually clad in a well-cut suit, he'd been everywhere and always had a tip. Alice and I stayed at the Chetty the last time we were in Muscat, he said, throwing back his tie before digging into his freshly prepared eggs. Oh, how I miss the living room that was Qatar Airways. When that place first opened, did you know the locals thought it wasn't finished? That's how clean and modern the lines are, just spectacular. He told me that he and his wife had visited the Wadis, Oman's river valleys. They're dry now, he said, which means the visibility is perfect for scuba diving. Alice is coming on Thursday and we're going diving. Wait a minute. Jeff had just gotten Patty certified. So I was the one who went over with the job because the idea was my journalist husband was going to become a foreign correspondent. He did get Patty certified. What if we join you and make it a foursome, I asked. It's Jeff's birthday in a couple of weeks. And so it was decided. As soon as I got into my room, I was going to call Cindy back at the university and see if she'd book a ticket to surprise him when we spoke that night. In the meantime, I had a few hours to kill before the recruitment fair kicked off, and I wanted to enjoy some downtime in the Muscat's Grand Hyatt. Maybe I could grab a massage before the evening ceremony kicked off the event. I was poring over their services leaflet when I realized I was the only one of our group still at the front desk. I looked around, like all upscale hotels I'd been to in the Gulf. And by the way, there's no alcohol or exposing your shoulders or hanging out with the opposite sex unless you're in a five-star hotel in this part of the world, so all my stories take place in five-star hotels. Like all upscale hotels I'd been to in the Gulf, their lobby featured an elephantine glass chandelier, heavy wood paneling, gold accents, and heaps of wasted space. Not a colleague to be seen. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, ma'am, the concierge said. We have no reservation under your name, and we are fully booked. So I've arranged a room for you at Al Bustan. Now, Joe had filled me in on that hotel on the ride over as well. Renowned for its views, the Al Bustan was an old palace built into the hills of Muscat on the other side of town. I didn't want to be marooned. Hey, didn't I see another hotel across the parking lot, I asked? From the look of horror on the guy's face, it was clear that place was not up to the standard of the Grand Hyatt. But anything seemed better than being trapped across town. I was in the Peace Corps, buddy. I can handle a cheap hotel for a couple of nights. Really, it's fine. I said, please just book me there. He did as I asked, and then arranged a car to whisk me across the parking lot. Now, the air rarely dipped below body temperature, so I was like, okay. It seemed excessive, but he was trying to be helpful and I wanted to let him. Plus, I didn't want to sweat in my suit. As I entered the Coral Boutique, just a parking lot away, it dawned on me how long it had been since my days of low-rent accommodation. The lobby featured wooden brass accents, all right, only here they were shaped into a registration desk that looked like a sailing ship. There was no massive chandelier. A giant spiral staircase took up most of the lobby. To the left was a grimy-looking restaurant that emitted no smell. A restaurant that didn't smell like food. Never a good sign. And the elevator was not working, possibly a worse sign. I circled the staircase to the first floor, what we Americans would call the second floor, to find my dimly lit chamber. My room offered a bed, a TV on a rickety stand, and a small refrigerator. I flipped on the AC, and out came the stink of smoke and rotten eggs. I looked around for the remote before realizing the set has knobs. When I did manage to get it on, it was all Arabic all the time. No cable or internet, except on the one computer terminal in the lobby. There was only one way to deal with this. I'm going to head over to the Hyatt for a massage. I called the book, but they didn't have any openings. So I called Joe. Guess where I am, I said, kind of hoping he'd offer to switch rooms immediately when I relayed my plight. I was happy enough to take him off on his offer to come over and enjoy his room's amenities. Come watch a movie, he said. I have room service. He had me at the movie, though I was never opposed to a snack. I crossed the lot on my own this time, which took less time than traversing the Hyatt's enormous interior. The hallway stretched on forever before I found his room. This, too, was huge, complete with a living area, tea, and dressing room. The giant TV, however, faced the bed. Only one place to watch. I hesitated a moment, but this was Joe. Everybody loved Joe. I hopped in. That's when Joe decided he wanted to take a nap. Wasn't this at odds with my movie watching? Go ahead, watch TV. I can sleep through anything. Alrighty then. I started surfing his gazillion channels, the wonder of a simple remote control, but Joe was struggling under the sheets. He asked me to get under the covers so he could be more comfortable. That seemed a bit much, but still I wasn't about to head back to my room. There were hours to go before the group met for dinner. I thought about stealing a pillow. Duly settled, I went back to channel surfing. Then Joe yawned and stretched and rolled over and reached out. Suddenly, his left arm was draped across my lap. What the hell? Was it an eternity or 5 seconds later that he shifted and the hand was gone? But wait, that move was so high school. I couldn't be sure it was a move. Was that a move? I froze in my seat, wondering what to make of it. Maybe it was best not to make anything of it. Why isn't there anything on the TV? I looked down at the side table to my right. Reading Lolita and the Tyrann was there. My wife says that's good, Joe said, getting out of bed and going to the bathroom. Oh, so now he's awake and invoking the wife. Of course that wasn't a move. How could I be so juvenile? I turned the TV off and started to read, scooting down a bit, turning onto my side. I was barely onto the second page and the hand was back, only this time he took the side of my ass and gave it a squeeze like it was a roll of Charmin toilet paper. I practically fell out of the bed. Oh, I have to go, I muttered, up and out the door in seconds, grabbing my shoes from I don't know where, but they were in my hand. Joe was right behind me, but I didn't turn, didn't look back. I just kept walking, marching down those infinite corridors, my anger as Joe fleeting as I turned that anger onto myself. How could I have gotten into such a stupid situation? What was I thinking? I felt dirty and disgusting and slutty. I wanted to go right home. It's just one flight a day, love, Cindy told me. What happened? Why the rush to come home? She's Australian, I'm really bad at that accent. Telling Cindy anything was a bit like handing out a press release, and I was pretty sure I wanted to keep this quiet. My plan was to tell her I'd come down with food poisoning when the hotel room phone interrupted us. It was the concierge saying there was a man downstairs who wanted to see me. Has to be Joe. I told him I did not want to be disturbed and hung up, going back to Cindy. But then I realized where I was. Cindy, I have to call you back. I got the concierge back on the phone. Yes, he had given the man my room number. I insisted on changing rooms. No sooner had I bolted the door on an identical room down the hall than my mobile started going off. It was Joe. I sat at the table, ignoring multiple calls, smoking and wondering what to tell Cindy when another colleague called. It was getting to be time to meet, so I assumed she wanted to make arrangements. Things got pretty intense there. It was Joe. Did that mean he thought I liked it? That I was complicit? And what in the hell had he said to borrow this phone? Is what I said. He asked if I'd like to meet him for coffee. Absolutely, I said. 15 minutes from now, your lobby bar. 20 minutes later, I sent him a text. I am a happily married woman. If you want to stay a happily married man, you will stay away from me. I never heard back from Joe. Now, what I do want to say to sort of finish off this chapter, I never did press harassment charges. Why? Because yes, all woman. That's right. When I did finally tell my husband the story, which I wasn't going to, I didn't want to tell him. He asked me, "Can you blame him?" I'm just going to leave you with that. Thanks.